I also love to see superstars being elevated. LA Knight got elevated quite a bit coming off of SummerSlam on both Raw and SmackDown. So on Raw, LA Knight and The Miz had a confrontation after LA Knight did the unthinkable, which is taking up The Miz's time in the photo section. You know, there's the photographers there. And LA Knight was getting his photos taken when The Miz wanted to get his photos taken. You know, it's really interesting for somebody with the history of The Miz, whose character is based on being this guy who got thrown out of a locker room for something as innocuous as he was accused of making a mess eating chicken over somebody's bag. And now he hasn't learned at all from that as a character, because he's getting mad at somebody for using the photo room when The Miz hasn't gotten to yet. He's become what he was fighting. So The Miz and LA Knight have that confrontation in the ring, which I thought, if it wasn't already cemented, purely cemented the fact that LA Knight is 100% babyface now, which I had been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, to the point where my 6-year-old son, I realized I was saying this too much. You know, I mean, I was driving around with my family, I don't know, a month ago, and I get a call from Peter Rosenberg. And Peter does this thing where when he's recording Cheap Heat, he'll just call and like, you're on the podcast. Hey man, I'm doing Cheap Heat. What do you think of this? And my family, they're just the most incredible people on the planet. They're just the most incredible, supportive people, because they know that's the type of thing that could happen to me. That we're driving home from Target and I get a phone call and all of a sudden I'm in podcast mode because I'm on a podcast. And the kids are in the back and they're not saying a word. And my wife doesn't talk. And it's perfect. But what I didn't realize is that my son listens to everything that I say. Right? So I turn on wrestling because he's getting into it. And I go, hey, bud, you like LA Knight? Because I also love seeing it from the perspective of a 6-year-old. I think that's so valuable. And he goes, yeah, but Dad, they should make him a babyface. That's what my son said. Because he was listening to me when I was on the horn with Rosenberg explaining this. It would have been before Money in the Bank when I said it. So they've listened to me and my son and have officially made him a babyface. And if you go back a few weeks on the podcast, you don't have to go back that far. If you're on the YouTube channel, just look for the one that LA Knight is the thumbnail on. I also made a clip of it. It went everywhere. You've probably seen it because it did a ton of views on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube Shorts, wherever you want to watch it. And kind of broke down the story that I think LA Knight needs to tell. Because I think that as LA Knight is now elevated, it's like, okay, that thing that you've been asking for and that thing that the fans have been asking for, we're going to give it to you. Now what? And you can't be put into that position and just do the same thing that you've been doing to get there. It's like, LA Knight needs to be given this opportunity. Okay, we're going to give him the opportunity. Why did he need to be given that opportunity? And that's when it's time for LA Knight to do everything he's been doing that works, but also start to tell us some stories. And I thought that the promo segment with The Miz was great. I thought The Miz was freaking awesome in it. I thought LA Knight did a great job. I felt like it was exactly what we asked for on the podcast. I'm delicately saying that because it was very similar to what I said that he should say on the podcast. But that's good. I say stuff on the podcast because I want it to happen, not because I don't want it to happen. And I thought he did great. He took down The Miz, came across standing strong. Then we go to Smackdown, and he's got a match with Uncle Phil, Top Dolla, Who Hada, Not Nada, and defeats Top Dolla, which I mean that tells you the whole story, right? That Top Dolla is a heel, and Top Dolla, while not enhancement talent, is there to be a credible opponent for a good guy to beat. When we want somebody to look strong, we're going to put him in a match with Top Dolla. And that's what they did for LA Knight. And I thought it was a real good sign of things to come. So the question is, will the story connect? Will the human side of LA Knight connect as well as the catchphrases do? And I think that it could be really interesting, right? Because we've seen a very guarded, very protected LA Knight. And when I say guarded and protected, I mean he's doing that himself this entire time. I think it gets really interesting when LA Knight allows the fans to come in and understand why you are the way that you are. Look at MJF on AEW. The reason he's able to be a babyface now is because he explained the story of why he has been the way he has been. What is that layer? What is that connective tissue? And I think that that's what LA Knight started doing with The Miz on Monday. And I think that that's what we're going to get. And I think it's everything we could ask for, right? It's the fans being listened to. It's somebody who's excelling, whether he gets put in a position to excel or not. It's somebody who's excelling and getting rewarded for excelling, getting recognized as somebody who's excelling, which is a really, really great thing.